friends from media, ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted and honored to welcome Ambassador Thomas Shannon, U.S. Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs, and his delegation at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs this evening. This is our second meeting in the last 2 months or so, and Ambassador Shannon and I met in New York late September on the sidelines of UN General Assembly when he called on His Excellency the President, and discussing growing interaction and partnership between our two. Ambassador Shannon, Finance Minister Mangala Samaravira during his visit last month to Washington, D.C. Honorable Speaker of our Parliament and multi-part delegation were in Washington in late September. The level of heightened interaction between our two countries at all levels is indeed heartening. Ladies and gentlemen, Undersecretary Shannon is no stranger to Sri Lanka, and to all our leaders, and indeed to all of you. This is his second visit to Sri Lanka. His first visit took place in December 2015. You would recall, and I'm sure, that he held a press briefing in the same building during his first visit in December 2015, at which the dates for the first US-Sri Lanka Partnership Dialogue were announced. Accordingly, the inaugural Partnership Dialogue between US and Sri Lanka took place in Washington, D.C. in February last year, 2016, shepherded by none other than Ambassador Shannon. Today, I'm delighted to announce that Ambassador Shannon and I, together with the respective officials of both countries, have held the second US-Sri Lanka Partnership Dialogue. It is in many ways an important milestone for our two countries. As you know, United States and Sri Lanka have been friends for generations. We have benefited greatly from our interactions, including in the fields of trade, commerce, people-to-people contacts, education, cultural sectors, as well as defense and security cooperation. The relationship between our two countries were intensified following the elections in 2015, where the people of Sri Lanka voted for strengthening good governance, democracy, rule of law, reconciliation, and sustainable peace, values that our two democracies cherish. This enabled the setting up of the mechanism called the Partnership Dialogue, which enables our two countries to build our relationship on a firm basis and structure and enhance our cooperation across a wide range of issues. The second Partnership Dialogue today indicates the consolidation of this important and useful mechanism for discussion on a wider range of important issues and areas of cooperation between our two countries. Ambassador Shannon is the most senior US official in the new US administration to visit Sri Lanka. And the second Partnership Dialogue between our two countries, with Ambassador Shannon leading the US delegation, indicates the commitment on the part of United States and Sri Lanka across administrations for strengthening relations spanning a broad range of areas of cooperation. We have agreed today on a joint statement following our discussions, which you will receive as you leave this press interaction. It is in all 3 languages, so all press will benefit that. As you will read the joint statement, cooperation between United States and Sri Lanka cover multitude of areas, from law enforcement to counter narcotics, counter terrorism, helping address fiscal and debt challenges, strengthening rule of law, transparency and democracy, reconciliation and livelihood support efforts, and military cooperation, just to name a few. Undersecretary Shannon, in his remarks, will address some of these and also speak about new areas of cooperation and assistance to Sri Lanka. Ambassador Shannon. Your visit takes place close on the heels of USS Nimitz carrier strike group, the first US Navy aircraft carrier to visit Sri Lanka in 32 years. We have had several ship visits during the last 2 years. Moreover, US Marine Corps helped us to establish the Sri Lanka Marine Corps. We are extremely pleased and appreciative of these developments and increasing military cooperation, which yields mutually beneficial bilateral and regional strategic and security benefits. The participation in August-September by Acting Assistant Secretary Wells in the Indian Ocean Regional Conference that was held in Sri Lanka was encouraging for us in terms of US engagement in pursuit of joint initiatives that enhance security, stability, transparency, and economic opportunity in Indo-Pacific region. Ladies and gentlemen, Ambassador Shannon visit this time is a very brief one. He arrived this evening and will leave tomorrow morning. Apart from discussions with senior government officials and ministers, he has called on Honorable Prime Minister earlier this evening and the Minister of Foreign Affairs as well. Undersecretary Shannon, I am grateful for your undertaking this visit, but I hope that your next visit to Sri Lanka would be a longer one. We look forward to staying engaged with you in the coming days, weeks, and months as our two countries work towards enhancing our bilateral relations and also engage in areas of mutual concern regionally and globally. I must also express my gratitude for your leadership in promoting US-Sri Lanka relations across administrations and for the support you provided me personally in my capacity as Ambassador of Sri Lanka to the USA in Washington until recently. I want to place on record our appreciation for the tireless efforts of Ambassador Atul Keshav and his team in Colombo, who work closely with us to make bonds between our two countries even ever stronger with each passing day. I now invite Ambassador Shannon to address you, after which both of us will take 2 questions each from you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Foreign Secretary. What a great pleasure to be here today in Colombo, and what a great pleasure to be standing here with you, sir. As you noted, we worked together in Washington when you were Sri Lanka's ambassador during a period of momentous change in Sri Lanka and of enormous advancement in the U.S.-Sri Lankan relationship. You played a vitally important role in fashioning that relationship and in explaining it to the American people and to the American Congress and executive branch. You were a great diplomat, and I'm glad that your skill has been recognized by your own government and that you're here working as Foreign Secretary and playing such an important role in shaping Sri Lanka's diplomacy, now much further than just our bilateral relationship, but globally. You know, it's an enormous pleasure to be here in Colombo for the U.S.-Sri Lanka Partnership Dialogue. This is the second time we have met in this format, as the Foreign Secretary has noted, and it has proven to be a valuable forum to discussion of our many important areas of collaboration. I commend Sri Lanka on its courageous decision to commit to a process of reform that promotes greater equality and prosperity for all Sri Lankans, regardless of ethnicity or religion. The United States fully supports those working to build a reconciled Sri Lanka and commends the positive steps towards a new constitution and post-war justice, reconciliation, and accountability. As the government makes progress in this area, our bilateral relationship will continue to grow. During my meetings today with Sri Lankan officials and the Foreign Secretary noted with whom I saw, we addressed many substantive issues, including further strengthening bilateral relations, security in the Indian Ocean region, sustainable infrastructure development, and our united approach to North Korea's unlawful weapons program that threaten and undermine international peace and security. The The United States and Sri Lanka share common goals as fellow democracies, both working to promote and protect human rights and fundamental freedoms. We are strong partners, and today our relations are at an all-time high. The United States and Sri Lanka are committed to building an open and resilient Indo-Pacific region where all countries can prosper, protect international laws and safeguards and standards, and work to protect sovereignty. Renewing our commitment towards strengthening the bond between us, I am pleased to announce that the United States Peace Corps is working with the Sri Lankan government to return American volunteers to Sri Lanka's English classrooms. As we know, English language ability opens doors to greater economic and educational opportunities and opens a window onto a wider world. We stand ready to offer you the talents of our best and brightest Americans in recognition of the progress Sri Lanka has made towards ensuring peace and stability for all of its people. Additionally, I am pleased to announce a new $21 million project by the U.S. Department of Agriculture through the Food for Progress program. This program will help increase the productivity of Sri Lanka's dairy sector and connect thousands of Sri Lankan farmers to local and regional markets. I am also pleased to announce that the United States will offer a second U.S. Coast Guard cutter to the Sri Lankan Navy, pending completion of congressional notification. This vessel, a Secretary-class high-endurance cutter, will enable Sri Lanka to more effectively police its coastline and exclusive economic zone and to protect its sea lanes of communication. This transfer goes beyond solely providing a capability. This Coast Guard cutter is a tangible symbol of our growing partnership and reflects our shared commitment to regional stability. Today is a great day for the Sri Lankan relationship. As the government of Sri Lanka moves ahead with its reforms to promote justice, accountability, reconciliation, and human rights, the United States will continue to partner with Sri Lanka to foster economic development and advance equal rights and opportunities for all persons in this great nation. I would like to conclude by thanking you, Mr. Foreign Secretary, for your friendship and for hosting me today, and for all the tremendous work you have done in making this dialogue and partnership a success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Shannon, and thank you for those three important announcements with regard to the providing of the Coast Guard cutter as well as $21 million assistance for dairy project as well as return of Peace Corps. It's now question time. So if there are questions, Ambassador Shannon and I are ready to answer. And if there's none, we are even happier.
Ambassador, Sri Lanka is at the moment recovering from a debt crisis. I mean, in your discussion, did you focus anything on helping on debt and fiscal consolidation?
Up to this point, no, but we'll be going to dinner afterwards and having a chance to talk with the Minister of Finance, who I saw in Washington also, as the Foreign Secretary noted. And we're quite happy to engage on the issue of debt. It's an important one, obviously, and we want to make sure that as Sri Lanka advances, that it does so in a way that allows it to take full advantage of its lending capabilities and has a financial structure to its development that is sustainable and enduring.
Ambassador, this is Sulochana from Ceylon Today newspaper. My question is that U.S. sponsored the resolution, U.S. and UNHRC sponsored the resolution, and now we have been hinted that the U.S. is trying to withdraw from the United Nations, UNHRC. So how serious is USA regarding the reconciliation process we are working on?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the part when you said we were withdrawing from...
UN or UNHRC, is there something the US really wanted to withdraw? There is something, a hint going on about.
A hint?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not hinting. Well, first of all, let me make a bigger point here. Yeah, we played a significant role in the creation of the United Nations in the aftermath of World War II. Secretary of State Cordell Hull won the Nobel Peace Prize for the role the United States played in creating the United Nations. We are committed to the United Nations. We are committed to the important role that it has played over time. At the same time, we are committed to its good governance and to reforming the United Nations to ensure that it remains relevant, both in terms of its management structure, its financing structure, but also its political purpose. Our ambassador to the United Nations, Ambassador Nikki Haley, has made no secret of our concern about some aspects of United Nations behavior, especially its singling out of Israel for special attention and not always positive attention. This remains very important to us. We want to make sure that all countries are treated with an even hand and treated in a positive fashion within the UN context. But in this regard, our purpose has always been to work within UN institutions whenever possible. And so as far as the HRC is concerned, I think we're there to stay. But thank you for the question.
His two questions done, but if there's anyone who has to raise a question in Sinhala, I can translate. If not, can you take, it's for him? Will you take one more?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay. Yes, please, go ahead.
I have a question for Mr. Kariyawasam. Given the accelerated pace of U.S. and Sri Lanka military-to-military relations in recent times, how would you say, what is the bearing of this development on Sri Lanka's non-aligned status? I mean, are we still a non-aligned country?
Sri Lanka, if you call it, we are having a partnership. It's a partnership we have with US. It's not an alliance as such. So it's a partnership, and having partnership with many countries does not contradict Sri Lanka's policy of non-alignment in terms of our political approach to international affairs. And Sri Lanka, as you know, is a country that believes in inclusive relations rather than exclusive relations. So our very close partnership with US, we believe, is a positive element in our approach towards international relations that is based on not having alliance relationships.
Secretary Shannon, last week, a delegation from the EU was in Sri Lanka, visiting areas in the north and visiting Colombo. They said they were disappointed with the pace of reconciliation reforms promised by the current government. Do you have any comment on the pacing of reform and America's concerns?
No, thank you for the question. It's an important one. Obviously, we all want a fast pace, and I think nobody wants it more than the Sri Lankan people and the Sri Lankan government. You know, as I noted in my remarks, the whole world is watching Sri Lanka because of the incredible commitment it has made to overcoming the consequences of the conflict here in Sri Lanka and the way in which it has sought to address issues of reconciliation and reform. And the rest of the world wants Sri Lanka to be successful because they realize that in Sri Lanka there could be an example or a model that is immediately relevant to many other countries around the world. So we all want to see things moving faster, but at the same time we recognize that we're operating in a political context and a political environment, and that Sri Lanka is emerging from a very complicated and violent conflict. And therefore, we are prepared to work with Sri Lanka and help it along its way, recognizing, though, that it is the Sri Lankans themselves that have to make this move. So I think the short answer to your question is we always want these things to go faster, but we want to make sure that as they are completed and consolidated, that they're enduring and sustainable. And this is why we are going to be Sri Lanka's partner throughout this entire process.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Don't forget to take the copy of the joint statement when you go out. Thank you very much.